Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right. Welcome back. It's hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Phone lines are open at 650-LEGAL-MJ. That's right, 650-534-2565. That's where our Legal MJ is at. And speaking of Legal MJ, we got 5 more states voting on it. Legalized marijuana in Arizona, California, Massachusetts, Maine, and Nevada. And if you would like to do your homework and find out exactly what the hell's getting voted on, I'd encourage you to check out weednews.co. We have got the full text of all 5 initiatives posted up there, and they're hyperlinked with a table of contents. And what's neat about that is you can jump to a particular section, and then when you copy that hyperlink and you pass it on to someone else through Twitter or Facebook, they jump right to that section. So when you read one of them Facebook comments when someone says, oh, it creates a crime of passing a joint to someone, you can go find where it is. That's bullshit. Click the link, copy the link, send it over. Say, do your homework. Look shit up before you start running your mouth. God knows I have to. Anyway, check out weednews.co, not .com, weednews.co. Because we're in a hurry, man. We got time to add an extra M. So I was going off on this Hillary Clinton thing because it's debate night tonight. And on Forbes is where I'm getting this report. But Forbes is getting it from the stellar work of Tom Angel at Marijuana Majority. He's also writing at marijuana.com. He's kind of the East Coast Radical Russ in a sense. Although I bow to him, man. He does a far better job than I do, I got to say. He's in the media all the time. And he's been digging through those WikiLeaks emails of the Podesta camp, right? Now, I happen to know that Tom's not a big Hillary Clinton fan either, right? So he's I shouldn't speak for him. I think he's voting for Gary Johnson, but I have to ask him. But anyway, so I know he went into these WikiLeaks emails with a skeptical eye, right? And I trust his judgment on this, that, he's going to, dig into this, and no matter what he found from it, he would report it. And kudos to him, because he's reporting what I believe is a very fair review of these of the marijuana mentions that's found in these emails. I mentioned the correspondence with Earl Blumenauer, the Black Lives Matter transcript that says, from my perspective, we do need to look hard at decriminalizing behavior that is not harmful, that is not leading to violence, and to try to figure out how best to do that. The question had been in context of criminal penalties for marijuana and for sex work. She went on to say, quote, I support the idea of it, marijuana decriminalization. I'm not sure exactly how you would implement it and how, because remember, most of the laws you're talking about are state and local laws. I mean, the federal government can encourage, can make suggestions, can provide incentives, but most criminal law, most policing, all of the problems that we've been discussing are really controlled at the local and state level. So you have to have a buy-in by others, not just by the federal government, end quote. And that's a pretty nuanced look at it. It's a pretty sophisticated look, although I would say the federal government can at least unschedule marijuana, deschedule, even reschedule would help a lot of these state and local laws because they're triggered by the Controlled Substances Act at the federal level. There's some of them are tied to it, right? But actually, it's not that easy because the United States is tied into a whole bunch of treaties, too. And if we descheduled cannabis, we'd be in violation of those treaties. Harry Anslinger tied us up real good. We're going to take a break. When we come back, some of those scary anti-marijuana ads that are running across the country.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Legal to listen to all over the world. We're just not sure about France. CannabisRadio.com.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proofed by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, you know. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
Cannabis Confidential with Dr. Dina. Candid.
I want to give you the inside story.
Captivating.
I want to introduce you to my kind and amazingly talented friends.
Compelling.
We get to meet some of the most amazing cannabis activists and warriors around.
Listen in as medical marijuana pioneer Dr. Dina shares never-before-heard stories, chats with cannabis insiders and celebrity friends, and provides invaluable perspective and insight into one of the fastest-growing industries in the world.
I want to share with you what was once confidential information. Let's expose the truth, discuss the issues, and learn the facts.
Cannabis Confidential, only on CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show, providing dictionaries to drug czars since 2009.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 9 after the hour. Just wrapping up that thing on Hillary Clinton in advance of tonight's debate, which I can't wait, man. This is going to be so much fun. I've got this feeling like there's this entire wave, there's this entire era that's coming to an end. Like there's a extinction level event for a certain strain of American intolerance. You know what I mean? I mean, we see it in the rapid evolution on the gay marriage issue. That was incredible how quickly that changed. And I mean, really, you get the early 2000s here, I was having to deal with Oregon, my home state, passing a constitutional amendment against gay marriage. is one of the 30 states where this got put on the ballot and was used as a wedge issue to drive conservative turnout. And, we were taking people's rights away through a constitutional amendment. I mean, that was stunning. I mean, every time we've ever amended state or national constitutions, to the best of my knowledge on the state thing, I don't know all 50 state constitutions, but to the best of my knowledge, we don't take people's rights away with the Constitution. We expand them. That was the first time, right? So that was just like 2006, man. And now we're 10 years later, and the whole country has flipped on it, just completely flipped on the whole idea. Just amazing to me. And we've seen it with marijuana. I mean, our Gallup polls out with 60% today. This was the Gallup poll. I closed that tab. Damn it! It wasn't anywhere near 60% just 10 years ago. It was like, I think the number was 40 or 39. Was it 39 overall? Just 10 years ago, 39% legal in America. So I think that the gay marriage issue, the marijuana issue, are just part of a bigger change in America that we're seeing that's giving rise to the end of a certain era. The end of the Reagan era? Could it be? Could we finally be reaching the end of the Reagan era? It's a feeling like, and Donald Trump in this, right? Here's Donald Trump's role in this, from my perspective, is the culmination, like the last gasp of it. I was watching Terminator 2 the other day, and you remember at the end of Terminator 2, they're fighting the liquid metal Terminator, and at the very end, they got to push him out into the foundry, into the molten metal to finally melt and kill him, right? Before that, Donald Trump's like that Terminator, man. You think he's dead, he's going to come back, but we're finally going to push him over that edge, and he's going to take with him the deplorables, this terrible strain of hatred and intolerance in America that hated gay people, hated women, hated minorities, hates immigrants, hates people that don't speak English, hates the pot smokers. I think that's dying out. I think maybe we're turning a corner to where we're going to be more accepting of other people. And part of this is the demographic change, to be sure, that we're becoming browner and younger, right? That's definitely a part of it. But I also think that part of it is our interconnectedness, the internet, the Facebook, the way that we're able to connect these days. Because generally, when you look at the country, we always talk about red and blue states. We're not red and blue states. We're red country with blue islands. We're red country with blue cities, it would be a better way to put it. And I think there's the correlation that I make is when you're in a city, you're crammed together with a whole bunch of different people. Everybody's different. And if you're not tolerant, you don't get along. And it's harder to form stereotypes and prejudices against people when you're confronted by them and you have to experience them and realize that people are all different, right? So that's why I think cities always tend to be more liberal, and university towns too. Whenever there's more education, we seem to see less of this problem. And then you get out of the cities, you go out to the country, you go out into the middle of the country, places where I grew up, and it's more of the same. More people are more the same. They more tend to go to the same types of churches and like the same kinds of stuff and listen to the same kinds of music. And it's not that they're racist or prejudiced per se. It's just that they're so used to sameness that differentness freaks them out. Right? When I was back in Idaho, we had my redneck uncles that I always talk about. We had Mexican friends and black friends and all sorts of different people but they were like us. You know what I mean? Like the black or the Mexican friend in Idaho was the guy who still wore the trucker hat, right? And had the hunting rifle in the rack of the pickup, right? He was a good old boy, just happened to be Mexican. Good old boy, just happened to be black, right? But they were still like us. So there wasn't and that rural kind of feeling sometimes when they talk about race issues or they get mad at Black Lives Matter, it's a them kind of, those kind of black people kind of thing. Chris Rock had an old routine on it. Older folks, you'll know what I'm saying. I likes black people, but I hates, the routine. He won't do the routine anymore either, by the way. He swore off of it because too many white people were using it. Like white nationalists were going, yeah, that's what we mean. Well, and he's like, no, that's not what I meant. But I think you know what I'm saying, right? It's this fear of the different. And when you're in a city, when you're in an educated place, it's harder to fear the difference because you're confronted by it all the time. Well, where this ties back to the whole marijuana legalization thing is that we're more connected now, right? When I was growing up in rural Idaho, I managed to get a hold of myself a Public Enemy cassette. We had cassettes back in the day. And I was really into rap when I was young, right? And I was thrilled by it. Well, this was not something you heard on the radio in Nampa, Idaho, growing up. Not on J105, the Rock of Idaho, right? Playing Boston for the 6th time in a row. Anyway, it's not the kind of thing you heard growing up. So where did I get this? I mean, I had to look far and wide to find, figure out what my interests were. Who is Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock? Never heard of him. There was no internet. You didn't look it up. You couldn't find it. Maybe you went to the mall and in the magazine you could find a music magazine and maybe look something up and that's somebody I had to find. And then you had to go to the record store and find, is there a cassette of that guy? No, we don't have that. And finally I got myself a Public Enemy cassette and I was just, oh my God, I loved it. Played the shit out of that. Well, that disconnect, that being disconnected from what's going on around you was a lot easier back then. We used to have a saying, welcome to Idaho, set your clock back 30 years, right? But with the internet and with our connectedness now, kids growing up in Minot, North Dakota got access to the same Spotify I do. Kids growing up in Wheeling, West Virginia got the same Pandora I got. And take that metaphor larger, right? Not just sharing music, but sharing ideas and sharing cultures and sharing viewpoints. We've just become so much more connected. And that's why I think we're at the end of this kind of era. And the Trumps and the Deplorables represent the last holdouts of that. We can wall ourselves off and be our own sameness. It's the end of that. There's not going to be any more homogeneity. We're too connected now. We're too globalized now. We're too part of this big living economic, agricultural, ecological sphere hurtling through space. We can no longer separate ourselves behind walls, be they actual walls, Donald, oh my God, or metaphorical walls of being geographically distant and culturally isolated and economically separated. It just won't work anymore. And marijuana is becoming a big, big part of that. It's threatening to tear down the barrier between us and our healthcare. That's what they're afraid of, by the way. They're not afraid of the fact that you can, grow some weed and smoke it and get high. That doesn't bother them a bit. What bothers them is it upsets the entire medical paradigm, right? It's not just that it might replace OxyContin or Xanax or Ambien or whatever. That's part of it, yes. But on a bigger scale, it's not that it's replacing individual products. It's replacing a whole way of thinking. It's replacing a whole paradigm of how we treat and deal with illness in this world. It's getting us back to what Native Americans and early Chinese and Egyptians and people understood, that there was a homeostasis. There was this way that we fit in with the rest of life, with the rest of the planet. And we're getting back to that, and we're uncovering this. We don't need to go to the guy in the white coat with the framed diploma on the wall who got the special given knowledge only to the certain cast of special professionals that have the wisdom to be able to, no, fuck that shit. Smoke a bowl, right? Try a plant. Maybe stop eating less shit, right? Hey, go take a walk. Have a nap. Give someone a hug. Fall in love. Eat some chocolate. Relax. We're getting to that, and that just upsets the whole freaking apple cart when it comes to capitalism. That messes the whole thing up, doesn't it?
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Yeah, the irony is that we are. We are thinking of the children. We're thinking, hey, maybe we ought not destroy this planet. Maybe we ought not get them addicted to painkillers and shit. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll do some of those scary, scary marijuana ads and more when we return.
Being green is good. Growing green is good. Making green is great. CannabisRadio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Our daughter Rebecca could have a seizure at any given time that could take her life.
When you have 200 seizures a day, she gets so scared.
I've learned a lot about the benefits of medical marijuana in the treatment of intractable epilepsy in children. We feel her saying to us, Mom, Dad,
help me.
When is this going to stop? Why don't you, my parents who love me, do something? And we can't.
Please help us help our daughter.
Our daughter Rebecca needs all options for medical marijuana, so please vote yes on Amendment 2.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com.
Yarr, thar be pirates here. Har, 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 har. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Just checking up on the chat room, and good point made by John Thomas out there. Can't help it. Every time I say John Thomas, I think of John Cleese. Anyway, John Thomas out there says that there's the risk that we've got in the internet world and the globalized world now is this balkanization that's happening, right? Where everybody just kind of ends up in their own echo chamber, like here, right? We're kind of an echo chamber. We all like legalized weed, and we talk about legalized weed. So, but I think that there's a degree of that. I understand that because there are people that they just spend their whole day on Fox News, and that's their whole worldview, and they're not listening. They're not allowing any other voices in. There's that. But I think there's always been that, right? That you could always be that kind of person. I'm saying if you want to be one of those people that's interconnected, it's much more possible. And I think the natural inclination for people is to want to be interconnected. I think we're kind of a social animal that way. We want to communicate with others. We want to share information and ideas and stories with them. So I guess that's the point. Just to hone that point a little bit, I guess. You're right. There is that balkanization. Trust me, I get the emails from them. I get them all the time. I take in a lot of information, people. I don't know if you know how much I read and sift through, and the PDFs I download, and just the most dry subjects sometimes. But I get them from a lot of sources. I'll get my feed from Breitbart and Drudge, and I follow people on Twitter that are diehard righties and super Trumpers and anti-pot people. I follow them all. I want all the voices coming in. I want as many voices in my head as possible. It's all that pot smoking made me see. But I want to get all the sources I possibly can. I want to hear all the perspectives. That's why I go out to the No on Prop 64 stuff and read what they're saying. And yeah, I use it for fodder. I entertain, throw some entertainment value on it. But I am genuinely concerned about what their concerns may be. And so with that in mind, I want to direct your attention to a story that's on the Los Angeles Times today. And it's these 76-year-old twins have grown pot for decades. Here's why they oppose legalization. You know how this one's going to go, right? John Thomas is getting mad already, I can tell you. We'll get to this story in a second. I want to just plant that nugget right there. Plant that seed. These 76-year-old twins have grown pot for decades. Here's why they oppose legalization. Before I tell you the story of these 76-year-old pot growers, let me tell you a different story. A story of two young men living in two different continents. One was named Charles Martin Hall. He was 22 years old, and he's living in Ohio. And there's another young man named Paul Hero. He's 23 years old, and he's living in France. You got these two young men in their early 20s in two different continents, right? America and France. Now, the story of these two concerns aluminum, or as they would say over in England, aluminium. Now, we know aluminum as cans, right? Your soda cans, right? Aluminum cans. Here in Oregon, you get 5 cents per can for your deposit, right? We know it as one of the most recyclable materials possible, like 96% post-consumer recyclable, something like that. Wonderful thing, right? And aluminum foil, right? We got aluminum foil, cheap, easy, very handy, right? You got aluminum everywhere. As we should, aluminum is one of the most plentiful substances on the planet. It's the most common metal in Earth's crust. But here's the thing about aluminum. It wasn't always that cheap. It wasn't always the aluminum foil in the tin can that we know it as today. Aluminum's got this property that binds it to almost anything else, almost any other element, right? So you'll find rubies and sapphires that have, aluminum bound to them, right? And so for all of human history, despite the fact that aluminum could be found everywhere, it's freaking common as hell, you couldn't get it. You couldn't get pure aluminum. It was tough. There's painstaking processes to make this happen. So up until 1825, there wasn't even a sample of aluminum. Right? It's all over the planet, but you couldn't get just it separate from the other stuff, right? It was bound together with all this stuff. So 1825, they finally put together a sample of aluminum. These scientists finally figure out how to make a sample. And even that wasn't a pure sample of aluminum. It was still kind of contaminated, but they still managed to get this barely kind of impure aluminum made. And this was the toast of the town, man. It was like, oh my God, this new metal, it's so shiny. It's so malleable. It's so amazing. So it was really, really expensive. Napoleon, for example, when he wanted to impress his dinner guests, show them a great honor, he would put aluminum silverware out there. He would direct the servants to take the gold silverware or the actual silverware. Get rid of that crap. Put out the aluminum. We've got honored guests coming. Nothing but the best. Put out the aluminum. The Washington Monument. You ever seen the Washington Monument? Well, it had a 6-pound aluminum cap on it. Put on the top of it because that was extravagant. That was the grand honor. We'll put aluminum on the top of the Washington Monument to honor our first president and the father of our country. So up until the 1800s, aluminum is this rare, expensive thing. But there was a couple of things that were happening along this same time. There was a development of the science of electrochemistry. We started understanding electricity and how it interacted with metals, and we started understanding a lot of these concepts. And so at the same time, these two young men in their early 20s, one's in Ohio, one's in France, they're studying chemistry. They got some mentors that are talking about aluminum. They're thinking, wow, if you could find a way to get this aluminum out of the rocks, my God, you'd make a fortune. So the guy in Ohio, Hall, he's out in his folks' woodshed working on this. Haro, he's out in France working at a tannery. And they both come up with this idea of using cryolite, which is an aluminum compound, that in a solution, when shot through with electricity, would produce pure aluminum. They both hit upon it about the same time, and both were successful at roughly the same time in history of becoming the first people to produce pure aluminum in a very simple and economical process. Now, Hall kept working on this process, refining the process, and founded a company that became Alcoa, which we know as the big aluminum company of America, right? Now, in 1880, the price of aluminum was $12 a pound. It got down to $4.86 a pound just 8 years later. It dropped to 78 cents a pound just 5 years after that. By the 1930s, something that 50 years ago cost $12 a pound was down to 20 cents a pound. 20 cents a pound for aluminum. Now, by the 1930s, we have flight that was made partially possible because the Wright brothers were able to build a lighter engine thanks to aluminum. In 1903. We got the first aluminum foil being made in 1910. And by 1948, they figured out how you could use that for cooking, right? How to make some aluminum that wasn't going to leach into the food or whatever. So by 1948, we get aluminum foil. And of course, aluminum's been used in so many consumer goods and things, inventions, getting us to the moon, et cetera, et cetera. What a miracle we got from this development of a way to produce pure aluminum so cheaply. Something that was plentiful. I mean, my God, you couldn't shake a stick at a rock without finding some aluminum, but nobody could do anything with it because, my God, it was so hard to produce. It was so expensive. Certainly was not economically feasible for making airplanes and beverage containers. So why am I talking about aluminum? Okay, let's go back. You remember the 76-year-old twins we brought up? All right, so these 76-year-old twins, the Los Angeles Times, have opposed growing pot for decades. And they've grown pot for decades. They're opposing Prop 64. And one of them, Robert and John Cunnan are their names. They're 76-year-old identical twins. They went up to the mountains 40 years ago. Quote, "We came here with the Back to Land movement. And for $6,500, they bought 10 acres, got a creek running down the middle, built some homes, grew their cannabis gardens. They didn't. Back then, they weren't growing cannabis. They were just going to the Back of the Land movement. And then Robert says, quote, "A friend of mine came up here in 1985, grew marijuana and sold it for $2,000 a pound. And that's when I thought, you might be able to make a little money doing this." End quote. And that, of course, is what thousands of families and people in Mendocino County, Emerald Triangle area have thought for years, right? Robert continues, quote, "At one time, I sold stuff for $5,000 a pound. It was worth more than gold. Now, it's down to $1,200 to $1,500. But cannabis allowed me to finish my house and get comfortable." End quote. So, he also says, "I consider myself a teacher," or John says, "I consider myself a teacher and a woodworker. The cannabis is just to fill in where the teaching and woodworking don't pay the bills." End quote. Now, they're against Prop 64. They believe that it's going to open the floodgates to the corporatization of the industry, pushing taxes up and prices down, and maybe force them out of the business. Quote, the thing you need to realize is that this is a movement that is becoming an industry. The movement was organic gardening, the back to the land, alternative lifestyle. We were the original generation that came up here and set up our pot gardens. And then they make the point of, like Walmart squeezed out the mom and pop businesses, and this is what's going to happen with marijuana. It's going to be legal, and then it's going to squeeze out these guys from being able to make $1,200 to $1,500 a pound. So I can't help but think of the people who, maybe they were rich people and they invested in aluminum when they were in the early 1800s and managed to get a whole bunch of it and buy it and sell it and made a whole career over this aluminum that was selling at $12 a pound. And I wonder what happened to their families. And I wonder what happened to the areas of the country where they had built up this economy around aluminum being $12 a pound. Only to find that, a few years later, it's down to 20 cents a pound. I wonder what they did. I wonder how they adjusted to that fact of life. Because I'm sorry, guys, you don't deserve to make a drug dealer's profits for a farmer's lifestyle on the back of incarcerating innocent cannabis consumers.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Cannabis use isn't the only thing growing. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
While the feds and state are doing their dance, you still need to transact business and manage your cash. Go professional and let your customers pay with PayQuick. They pay you and they earn rewards points. PayQuick connects to your bank account for free and secures all of your transactions. And with PayQuick, you can pay your producers and processors for free. Plus, it pays to have it because it makes depositing your cash safe and so easy. No cops, no crooks, just compliance and comfort, knowing you have your cannabis business in check with PayQuick. PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
From high atop Mount Soledad in San Diego, California, 100 feet above sea level. Good morning. It's good news with cannabis nurse Heather.
This plant is amazing. Positive change is happening. We did it. No matter who you are, you can make a positive impact on the world.
I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead.
And that quote helped to give you strength.
Nurse Heather is only on CannabisRadio.com.
Good morning, cannabis nurse Heather.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Hello, Mr. Man. Hi. I'm working. I'm sorry. No food till this is done. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are just getting ready for the big debate that's happening. Last presidential debate's on tonight, and I can't wait. This has been an entertaining. People have been like, oh my God, this election's awful. It's terrible. I've loved this election. This has been great. How much more entertainment value could you get? Then again, I don't have children, and I'm not married, and I don't have property or possessions. So I can have kind of a devil-may-care attitude, right? I kind of subscribe to that George Carlin thinking. You know, this country was bought and sold a long time ago. It's a big club and you ain't in it, right? That kind of, and what was the thing about, it's all Well, Bill Hicks has this thing about it's only a ride. It's all just a ride. And Carlin's is, was it a train wreck? Train wreck's not the right word, but when you're born, you're given a seat to the train wreck, and then if you're born in America, you're given a front row seat, right? So I've always had this kind of attitude, and so watching this develop, this election, watching first of all the mainstream Republican candidates, the Jeb, watching Jeb have to die on the vine, wither on the vine there, I should say. After getting hundreds of millions of dollars and having the whole political family support behind him and all that, to see the monster the Republicans created of their Tea Party kind of movement evolve and become Trump and take out all of their mainstream guys, that was just, and gals, that was just wonderful. I loved it. And now Trump's threatening to take down the whole damn ship. He's threatening. I was reading a piece the other day that was talking about how he is in danger of having the worst popular vote performance ever. Like below, I think it's like 36 was the worst one. Something like that. We'll see. This will be fun. I did want to get a couple of things out real quick. There was a tweet that came across regarding the election, or regarding the debate, that I thought was perfect. It says, "It's rigged against me," says endorsed straight white billionaire male given a year's worth of free advertising by the media. I thought that was perfect. Nailed it. Loved it. Before we go, though, I wanted to make sure we get to the ads, because I kept teasing this segment, and I kept putting it off because I got off on a ramble there. I got a little... you get those conversations when you smoke weed every now and then. You get into the one atom in my thumbnail could be an entire universe kind of conversations. I think we just had one of those earlier today. By the way, just quick stat. There are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the beach, but there's more atoms in a grain of sand than there are stars in the universe. Discuss. All right. But let me get to these ads, because all across the country now, I told you earlier, Sheldon Adelson's put $2 million into defeating Florida. He's put $1 million into Massachusetts. We got $1 million from the Discount Tire people in Arizona. Do not shop at Discount Tire in Arizona. I gave $1 million to defeat legalization. Another $500,000 from Insys Therapeutics in Arizona. Makers of fentanyl, the drug that killed Prince, want to make sure that marijuana's not legal because they're working on a synthetic cannabinoid drug. So, yeah, there's all the big money starting to come out here for fighting legalization, and it means advertising. It means the antis actually have some ads. So I'm going to give you a rundown. We'll do one for each state. Let's see what we can find to debunk in these. We'll start with Arizona. We'll do them alphabetical order. So Arizona's Proposition 205. This is the ad called A Very Bad Deal.
In 2012, Colorado voted to legalize marijuana. Colorado schools were promised millions in new revenues. Instead, Denver schools got nothing. What did Denver students get? Marijuana, in edibles that look like candy, marketed to kids. Teen marijuana use is the highest in the country, 74% higher. Traffic deaths increased 62%. Legalizing marijuana was a bad deal for Colorado. Learn more about Prop 205.
All right, so this one's already been called out in the Arizona media because it's a flat-out misrepresentation, obvious obfuscation, incredible distortion. It's everything you can call something that's not technically a lie. And here's what it was. They said Colorado was promised money for schools from marijuana legalization, but schools in Denver didn't get a dime. Those two statements are true. Colorado did promise a lot of school money, and Denver didn't get any school money. And the reason why is because Denver rejected it. There was money for Denver. The state went, here, Denver, here's your money for schools. And Denver said, no, thank you. We don't want the pot money. So to use that in an ad to try to scare people that, oh, you vote for legalization. It's not. And plus, notice what they don't say is they say Colorado was promised money for schools, but Colorado schools got nothing? No, Denver schools got nothing, right? They don't note the fact that every other place in Colorado got a whole bunch of money for their schools. And then there's another stat she throws in there. The rate of smoking pot in Colorado is 74% higher than the national average. Yeah, and it's always been higher than the national average. It's freaking Colorado, man. John Denver was not bullshitting when he sang Rocky Mountain High, okay? It's always been a great... See, these people, they think legalization makes people smoke pot, and it's the opposite. Smoking pot makes you legalize it. Where there's lots of pot smokers, they get together and decide, hey, you know what? Being a criminal kind of sucks. We ought to fix that. That's why Colorado has legalization and high rates, and Oregon has legalization and high rates, and why all of the first states to have done decrim, legal, or medical were states that had high rates of use. It's not like the people of Iowa were banging down the doors to try to legalize. No offense, Iowa. I know you do want to legalize. But you get my point. When you're in a state where 3.7% of the people smoke pot, it's a little more difficult than when you're in a state where, say, 14% do. All right, let's attack one. This is a California ad. Which one is this one? It's just called Smoke.
Proposition 64 will allow marijuana smoking ads in prime time and on programs with millions of children and teenage viewers. Children could be exposed to ads promoting marijuana gummy candy and brownies, the same products blamed for a spike in emergency room visits in Colorado. Fatalities doubled in marijuana-related car crashes after legalization in Washington state. Yet, in California, Proposition 64 doesn't even include a DUI standard. Prop 64. They got it wrong again.
All right, so let's go backwards on this one. The Washington State DUI thing. Marijuana-related fatalities means we got dead people that were pot smokers. That's all it means. Doesn't say they were high. Doesn't say that the being high caused the wreck. Doesn't say that even the driver was the cause of the wreck. Just means that people who smoke pot got in wrecks. And now that it's legal, people have more opportunities to smoke pot. Doesn't mean that that caused the wreck. Any more than being a gay married man would cause your wreck. But it's a whole lot more likely we're going to find gay married men these days in wrecks. Now, also, the doesn't include a DUI standard. California doesn't even include a DUI standard. Well, aren't you kind of undercutting your own argument because Washington has one? And you're making us worry that it got more accidents? So how did the DUI standard help? Anyway, the beginning of this ad talking about the advertising. Kids might see pot ads on TV. Oh, my God. Well, the advertising restrictions in Prop 64 are pretty stringent. It's the typical kind of thing where I don't have them right in front of me, but within Prop 64, it's got guidelines. It's got mandates, I should say, within the whole licensing, advertising, marketing section that they have to make it not appeal to kids. And generally that means you get regulations that say that if the audience is more than 6% this or 10% that, or if it's after the hour of 10, and this is a bunch of much ado about nothing. And, of course, trying to throw in the deadly pot gummy bear scare in there. Oh, no, they'll see ads for stuff that looks like gummy bear. Anyway, let's go to Florida. See how they're trying to fight medical marijuana in Florida. This ad is called Bud Tenders.
This is a pharmacist. Qualifications: 4 years of medical training and 2,000 hours of clinical experience. This is a bud tender. Qualifications: no medical training, no clinical experience, but knows a lot about pot firsthand. With Amendment 2, pot will be legally dispensed by bud tenders, not pharmacists, in pot shops, not pharmacies. No prescription needed. That's not medicine. It's dope dealers with storefronts. Vote no on Amendment 2.
Now, of course, Florida's Amendment 2 is polling about 77% now, so, you can laugh at this kind of ad. But this kind of ad worked last year, or last election, 2014, to drop the support down to 58%. I think, though, the people have gotten the clue in Florida that this ad is blaming the medical marijuana amendment for something that's really the fault of being Schedule 1. We'd have it in pharmacies. Sure, we'd have it dispensed by pharmacists. Great, that'd be awesome. We can't. It's Schedule 1. We can't do that. The whole reason we're passing this amendment is because you won't let it be medicine. All right, let's see what we got from Massachusetts. This ad is called Neighborhoods.
Question 4 would allow thousands of pot shops and marijuana operators throughout Massachusetts, in neighborhoods like yours. Shops that sell pot edibles that look like candy and high-potency marijuana. In pro-pot states, incidents of drugged driving and fatal car accidents are up. More pot shops than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. Higher potency, dangerous drivers. It's the reason health professionals are urging you to vote no on 4.
Oh, no, pot shops. There'll be pot shops. And if anybody wants to see what pot shops look like, you can go on the internet. There's plenty of them in lots of states. And what you'll find is frosted glass and solid walls and no big signage. And it's for them to be scared of pot shops at the same time that they're dining in open air patios with alcohol is ludicrous. And especially when the alternative to a pot shop is the gang, is the street dealer, is all sorts of unsavory solutions. Ridiculous, Massachusetts. All right, one more. We got to get one more in before we take a break. Nevada. This is the no big deal ad.
Think recreational pot is no big deal? This is today's pot, 10 times stronger than a marijuana cigarette. Colorado legalized edible pot 2 years ago. Emergency room visits for children who accidentally consumed it have doubled, and calls to poison control are up 5 times. Question 2 would make recreational edible pot legal in Nevada, putting our kids at risk overnight. Vote no on question 2. Their lives may depend on it.
All right, sorry about the audio quality there, hard drive skips and stuff, but you gotta love the minor key in the background. Gotta love that. That's nice and scary. Yeah, Nevada's gonna legalize it, and it is no big deal. They keep trying to scare us with the more people got into wrecks. When all the states have seen, well, I shouldn't say all of the legal states have seen declines in their highway fatalities, in their roadway fatalities. Yes, you're going to find more pot in people's system, but you need to get over the idea that finding pot in people's systems means you found a bad driver. It's not alcohol. It don't work that way.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Mindful of sustainable practices and limiting their environmental footprint, Sansal hemp is always grown outdoors, as nature intended. By starting with uniform genetic profiles, Sansal ensures the plant will maintain its optimal performance and yield consistently throughout its life cycle. It is through innovative processes that Sansal is able to achieve pure whole hemp extracts and meet industry requirements and the level of quality desired by many of their customers. Healthy plants, healthy people. SansalCBD.com. Improve your lifestyle naturally.
Lisa was an amazing girl.
She loved boating, photography, drama.
Nothing could stop the cancer.
She was only 17.
She had surgeries, hundreds of chemos, radiation. All they could do was try to make her feel better. We did lose Elise in September. It was horrific.
I don't know why anyone would choose to deny her relief by denying her access to medical marijuana.
Yes on 2 is compassion for those still fighting.
This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
have a package here for Radical Rick. Is there a Radical Rick here? How about a Rick Russ? Any Rick Russ? Somebody named Freddie Barack has sent him a package. Anybody? What is that? Sounds like a skunk. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Just 5 minutes here before we close up shop and get ourselves ready for the big debate night that's happening. Can't wait. Going to be a lot of fun. Got a reminder, we got a great show coming up for you tomorrow here on the Russ Belville Show. Our guest will be from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, David Lanois from Massachusetts. We'll be talking about Massachusetts Question 4 and how not just law enforcement has been against this and some of the state officials in Massachusetts, but the beer distributors pack. We're seeing the alcohol industry starting to raise up and fight some of these initiatives. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk to him about that. And then on Friday's show, we've got Tommy Chong on the show. Yeah, not live, though. Won't be able to talk to him live, unfortunately. I've got to do a pre-record tomorrow morning with him. But we'll play that for you on Friday's show, so you'll get to hear my talk with Tommy. And if you got some questions you'd like me to ask, send me an email, radicalruss@gmail.com, and I'll ask Tommy Chong. All right, before we go, I've got to make sure I play this one. This is from the No on Nevada Question 2 people. Stealing from Jimmy Kimmel, a bit that he does on his show called Mean Tweets. And this one is called Kids Read Mean Tweets from Pot Advocates.
At Trustley, I like to smoke pots and play with little kids.
If a child accidentally eats a marijuana edible, it will not hurt them. Cannabis has never hurt anyone, ever.
At Chaw said, your guys' entire argument is kids going to the ER or poison control. Well, why is that so bad? It's not like they're hurt.
At Thai Nugget, kids smoke a heroic amount of pot, and you can be great too, guaranteed.
All right.
At Jules said, if my kids don't smoke pot, they're getting kicked the F out.
So there you go. That's the mean tweets. Now, mean tweets from Pot Advocates, right? You could look up those Twitter handles. It's not like they're getting like the head of MPP or DPA or any of these campaigns. They're like the random stoners on the internet that tweet shit, right? You want me to go find some random tweets from people that hate pot? Give you an idea of what they're thinking? I found some pretty scandalous shit, man. I get it all the time. So, funny. And actually not funny. That's the other thing I wanted to mention about this. It's always amusing to me when these folks, the puritanical, conservative types, try comedy. Especially comedy that involves sarcasm. They're just so bad at it. They're just so terribly bad at it. It's very rare that you ever get that worked out just right. So nice try, Nevada, but not nice enough. All right, we're going to call it a day. And before we go, let's do a random. This is a random no ad. Let's see what we get. Oh, we've already heard that one. So let me do a different one. Here's a random Arizona no ad.
Supporters of Prop 205 claim it will raise money for Arizona schools. But check the fine print. Where does the money really go? To pay for new government agencies and a special marijuana police force. Arizona schools get whatever's left over. When marijuana was legalized in Colorado, Denver schools got nothing. Prop 205 means bigger government and more spending. Do you really think the marijuana money will get to Arizona classrooms? Get the facts on Prop 205.
Well, once again, the whole Denver didn't get money thing that we debunked, but the fun I want to debunk on that one, it creates a whole new agency and fund. Yes, that's what happens in government when you have a new industry, is that there's an agency that regulates it. And it pays for itself. Oh, and then the schools get what's left over, which will be millions. That's all the time we got. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.